The question now is that the amendment be agreed to, and I call the honourable member for Hughes.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Speaker. I'd like just to add a few comments to follow on from the members for Fenner and Kingsford Smith. Firstly, the member for Fenner makes the allegation that the Coalition's plans to reduce the corporate rate of tax in this nation are budget busting. Well, the member for Fenner should know that every cent of that is already in the budget. And we, Deputy Speaker, will have that budget back into a balance and then into a surplus very soon. The other point that I think that needs to be made, Deputy Speaker, is it appears as though we have members of the Labor Party that are living in a fool's paradise if they think that we do not have to respond to the US reduction in the rate of corporate tax. They are reducing their rate of corporate tax to 21% in the world's largest economy. But they are not the only nation that are reducing their rate of corporate tax. It is also in the UK, other nations like France. In fact, over the last decade, we have seen almost every major OECD nation reduce their rate of corporate tax. We understand that we need to be competitive in this nation to attract investment, to drive the jobs growth, to drive the prosperity of this nation. And anyone that thinks that we can just sit on our hands and watch our global competitors reduce their corporate rate of tax while we do nothing, Deputy Speaker, is to live in a fool's paradise. But there are other risks to our nation's competitiveness. Not only that the Labor Party does not understand the importance that that corporate rate of tax must be internationally competitive. The other threat we've seen in the last 24 hours is the real risk, Deputy Speaker, of sovereign risk that comes with the conduct of the Leader of the Opposition. Today's papers are reporting a duplicitous stance by the Leader of the Opposition on the Carmichael coal mine, telling one group of CFMEU workers and those in northern Queensland that he is in favour, Deputy Speaker, of the mine, but telling others that he's against it.
The honourable
contribution is ranging far further than this legislation. I ask you to bring the member to order on a matter of relevance.
Member for Hughes.
In this debate clearly go to the competitiveness of the Australian economy.
Member for Hughes is in order. He will continue.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It is clear, as I was saying, it is important that our nation stays internationally competitive to attract investment. Of course, one of those rates is the corporate rate of tax, which the opposition are burying their heads in the sand on. But the other danger is the sovereign risk that has been raised in the last 24 hours, that we have a Leader of the Opposition being duplicitous, saying one thing to one group of people around the Carmichael coal mine up in northern Queensland that he's in favour of it, and telling green environmental activists that he will block it, that he will revoke their licence. What message does that send to foreign investors in other countries that are thinking about bringing their capital to Australia to help create jobs and wealth and to raise revenue, Deputy Speaker, for the government that pays for all those things that we want to pay for pensions, for aged care, for hospitals, for schools, for kids with disabilities? We've got to create that wealth and we need to attract that foreign capital. But what would people sitting around a boardroom overseas today think when they pick up the paper and they read that the alternate Leader of the Australian nation is so duplicitous that if he comes to office, that he would revoke a licence given out? Who is going to put their capital up, Deputy Speaker, to take the risks, to go through all the environmental approvals that take years in this nation, knowing if they do everything correctly by the book, that the alternate Leader of the government will revoke their licence simply to appease extreme environmentalists and to win green votes in marginal electorates? Deputy Speaker, we are in a race, a competitive race against nations in the rest of the world. This is why the corporate tax rate is important for our nation. This is why everything this government does is to make sure that our nation stays competitive, because we realise that that is the only way that we continue to finance our first-rate hospitals, to continue to finance things like the National Disability Insurance Scheme, to pay our pensions, to pay our aged care, Deputy Speaker, all those things that are so important to this nation that we all want to be able to afford more to. The only way we can continue to do that is to ensure our nation is internationally competitive as far as coming to attract investment, and the greatest threat to that are those members that sit on the opposite side of the chamber.
I thank the honourable member for Hughes.